Hi there, welcome to the Big Idea podcast focused on food. Today we're talking to Erdem, who is one of the team members of Biftek, Biftek, a company from Turkey focused on the growth serum for cell-based meat. And instead of using fetal bovine serum, they're using a plant-based ingredient. So, interesting company, breaking barriers in the commercialization of cell-based meat. So let's hear about their journey and let's get into a conversation with Erdem from Biftek. Thanks very much. Okay, Erdem, how are you?
I am fine. Thank you for having me. How are you?
Very good. Welcome to the Big Idea podcast. We're focused, as you know, on food. You guys are doing some really impressive things in the food space. I'm really glad to have you. Why don't you tell us, as a beginning, what Biftek is and what you guys are set up to accomplish?
Sure. So Biftek is a company that operates in clean meat space. We have founded the company in 2018. It has been more than 3 years now. We are four co-founders in a team. So I am the CTO. So I am responsible from the technical stuff, technical side of things. So the design of the lab, design of the experiments, execution of the experiments, analysis of the data, and so on and so forth. Then my brother Kerem is the CEO, so he is the business developer and also the one who communicates with the with other founders and investors. And my ex-biology teacher who taught me biology in the university, Can Akçalı, is CSO. So he's also responsible from the scientific part of the company. So he plans the experiments, develops the ideas. And we have a CFO who is the brother of Can Akçalı. So we are two brothers in the company.
Okay.
So it's a brotherhood, so I can say. And he's responsible from the cash flow in the company.
Got it. So he's the CFO.
Yeah, he is the CFO. And the aim of the company is to develop medium supplements that can replace FBS, which is one of the biggest obstacle in the clean meat production in terms of the use of it. I mean, it is animal origin. It is produced from the serum of bovine. So you have to kill the bovine the calf to be able to have it. So it is all contradicting with the philosophy of clean meat. Therefore, it must be replaced. On the other hand, it is very expensive. So
I'm gonna stop you for a second and bring you right back to the beginning for people who are sort of new to this space. So let's kind of unpack each of these things like simply. And there are people who are obviously very familiar with the space, and they'll be sort of grinding their teeth a little that I'm asking you to do this. But clean meat, step one. What is clean meat? Keep just in a few sentences from your point of view. You say you are in the clean meat space. What is clean meat?
All right. From my point of view, clean meat is meat which is produced in an alternative way. It is animal-free meat, but it is real meat. It is not fake. It is not. It's not plant-based. It is real meat. But the one that is produced outside of the body of an animal. So, if you think about the production line, clean meat eliminates, filter out the animal from the pipeline. So clean meat can be defined in such a way, in my opinion.
Okay, yeah. So let me see if I can if I'm hearing correctly. So clean meat is meat at a cellular level. So in other words, if under a microscope, it would be, for example, identical to the meat that you would get from an animal, but it is created outside of the animal in a different way than putting it, but than having a calf that you grow over the next 18 months to 2 years that you feed with grain. It wouldn't be, you wouldn't be putting antibiotics, all the things that are the inputs to make a cow when you grow it. All of those things are taken out, and it's just taking the cells of an animal and replicating or growing the cells, correct?
Yeah, that's definitely correct. So there is no animal, but in principle, what's happening at the cellular level is all the same. So the cells divide, they differentiate, you harvest them all together, and then put it in a burger. So that's in principle, it's all the same at cellular level, but in terms of production, the way we produce it is completely different, as you say.
Got it. Okay, so that's the clean meat. That's step one. You then mentioned that clean meat, as it currently stands today, is using growth serum. I think you called it growth serum. And that serum is used to make the cells duplicate, correct?
That's right.
Awesome. The current industry standard for growth serum is fetal bovine serum. Okay.
Sure.
You started to explain what fetal bovine serum is. Do you want to do that, or to help the people, fetal bovine serum? Discuss.
All right. So as the name implies, it is a serum, a blood serum that is obtained from fetal bovine. So how it is produced? So let me briefly explain it. You take a pregnant cow, and then you kill the cow. Then you take out the calf, and you suck the blood of calf. Then, so blood has portions. So the portion that is made of red blood cells, and the portion which is cell-free, that we call serum. So those portions are obtained by centrifuging. So depending on the density and the mass of the ingredient of blood, so they can be separated when you apply centrifugal force. This is an important detail. Anyway, when you remove the blood, the cells within the blood, so what is left behind is a serum, which is rich in growth factors. So the proteins and hormones that cells need and calf needs while it is growing in the mother, in the womb. So that growth factor rich serum, the mixture, can also be used in cell culture laboratories to be able to keep the cells alive, as well as keep cells proliferating, because cells need them. They depend on them, depend on those growth factors, those hormones. Without them, they either don't do anything, they just stay as they are, or they commit suicide. Literally, it is called apoptosis. To be able to keep them surviving and proliferating and growing, you have to provide this growth factor rich mixture. So this is the definition of FPS, and it is sold in half-liter bottles, which cost, like, the cheapest of it is $200 per bottle, and it is diluted to be able to use on cells. 10%, 5%, sometimes 20% dilution is used. But in clean meat production, there is no way of using it. It is not possible. No, you have to replace it with something else, with an alternative mixture. So they are trying to find this alternative mixture.
Okay, so I use fetal bovine serum to make the cells grow. Typically, it's extracted after killing a cow and extracting the blood from the calf.
Yeah.
Okay. You guys are creating an alternative to that. So basically a growth factor that will make cells reproduce. What made you decide? I mean, I was going to say what made you decide to do this, but I'm guessing it's because fetal bovine serum is created in a way that involves slaughter and also is probably quite expensive given the processes involved in creating it. Are those the motivators, or what's driving Biftek to create an alternative growth factor?
Mm-hmm. First of all, our background was the biggest driver. So I mean, members in our team have been already working on this topic. So they had experience on feeding cells without FPS. They were investigating on alternatives already. Me myself also used alternative mixtures to grow specific kind of cells while I was doing my PhD. So me myself and also my teammates were all already familiar with this field. On the other hand, we all realized that so FPS is the biggest. I mean, the growth medium supplement is the biggest obstacle that waits to be solved within the clean meat space. So then we decided to.
When you say the biggest obstacle, you mean from a cost perspective, or what dimension is making it a significant obstacle right now?
Cost perspective, yes. There are known ways of replacing FPS. For example, you could produce the needed growth factors individually and specifically, so by genetic modification, for example. So there are available growth factors in the market that you can take off the shelf and use it in your own culture. However, they're also expensive. Although there are known ways, although there are there's a literature that reveals the needed growth factors, still, in terms of cost, they can't be an alternative to FPS use. So we decided to use our previous knowledge to replace the growth factors that can be purchased off the shelf and FPS and drop the price significantly. So, yeah.
Okay. So your approach, how did you guys sort of come up with the approach that you're using today, and how far away are you from proving your method is a strong alternative to fetal bovine serum or FPS?
Mm-hmm. Well, we had some experience, as I said. So we were already screening microbiomes, their metabolites, and the effect of those metabolites on the cells. And we have been screening also some plant-based solutions. And then we realized that the supernatants that we obtained from the microbiome of different animals can sustain living in cell culture, and can also induce the cells to proliferate. So we have some candidates, very promising candidates, that secrete high amounts of those growth-inducing factors to the environment that they grow in. And we have tried it on primary cells as well as cell lines, and we saw some growth. And it can compete with the FPS. I mean, the data that we have shows us that the growth factors on all the, the metabolites that is secreted from bacteria can induce the cell growth as much as FPS does.
So it's as effective as FBS?
It is, yes. So far, this is what we have seen. We are trying it on in different conditions, like in 3D, in bioreactors, in higher quantities, in different mediums. Different environments. So far, we have tested it on plastic dishes, which is a 2D environment. But we are trying to optimize it for 3D. Not only in bioreactors, but also in some sodium alginate kind of environments that provide 3D environment to cells. Cells behave differently depending on the way they attach to the neighboring cells. So their response can be a bit different. And so the concentration of the supplement that we use, the type of the supplement that we use might be changing. That's why lots of optimization studies is required. So this is what we are doing. We are about to send some samples to companies who are interested in using our samples. It looks like in couple of months we will do our first shipments.
Okay, so there was a lot in there, but so from a efficacy or sort of impact or usefulness perspective, your approach is you've been able to prove so far that your approach is as efficacious or as useful as fetal bovine serum, right? So as far as usefulness is concerned, you're proving that your approach is works and has the impact it needs. What about from a cost perspective? You mentioned that fetal bovine serum was expensive. It was one of the reasons why it was sort of slowing down the development of the clean meat category. How does the cost of your approach compare?
Sure. So the cost of our approach involves isolation of the bacteria, which is quite cheap, and the medium that the bacteria is supposed to live in, because the bacteria also needs a specific growth medium, which is, by the way, animal product free. It contains yeast extracts, some vitamins and minerals. So there is no animal ingredients in this medium. And side costs like electricity, water, labor cost, whatever. And when we sum them all up, we come up with a price like $10 per kilogram of meat. But this is kind of calculated by making some approaches. So we have not, designed a huge scaled up factory for it yet. But this is what we guess. It's going to be like the cost of this supplement going to be like $10 per kilogram of meat.
So your current estimate's $10 per kilogram of meat. How does that compare, for example, to FBS? I don't know what the price of that is.
Yeah, as long as I know, 7 liters of, for example, DMEM, which is a growth medium, is used per kilogram of meat production. It could be 7 to up to 20, as long as I remember. And the dilution of the FPS should be like 10% at least, sometimes 20%. So let's say 10 liters of DMEM is used per kilogram of meat production. Therefore, 20% of dilution means 10 liters, 2 liters of FPS, right? So 20% of the total whole growth medium should be FPS. So for 10 liters of growth medium, 2 liters should be FPS. Half liter of FPS costs $200. Therefore, 4 of that bottle gonna be used, which makes $800. So, I mean,
so basically
$800 versus $10.
Okay, so $800 of FBS to create 1 kilogram of meat.
Mm-hmm.
And for you guys, it's approximately $10.
Yeah, this is what we say. This is how we guess. I mean, according to our calculations, we haven't practiced it yet. But so this is what we foresee.
Okay, let's assume it's half that. Just thinking of a number, half that. Still significantly different, and potentially, from my point of view, opens up the whole clean meat category. Part of the challenge has been with clean meat or cell-based meat has been the ability to the cost of the growth factor, which is obviously something you need to factor in or include when determining the scalability. And the second is the bioreactor constraints at size, right? These bioreactors are quite expensive. Sounds like you guys have potentially solved one of the toughest challenges in the clean meat space or the cell-based meat space. You've said that these are calculations; they're your estimates. How long will it be until you can actually know your absolute cost saving? And you said you've already proven the efficacy of your product versus FBS. So that, I guess, was the first step. The second step is, I would imagine, is being able to prove the volume required and therefore the costs, the specific cost versus FBS. Is that a 1 month from today? Is that something that's going to take about a month to solve? Is that something that's going to take about a year to solve so that you understand the kind of cost structure? How long is that, from your point of view, going to take?
Mm-hmm. Well, so according to the timeline that we aim, let's say, it will take a year. So I say a year because in molecular biology world, if you made a calculation like I can finish this project in 3 years, you have to triplicate it because there are lots of things that may go wrong. That's why I say 1 year. In 1 year, we can know all. We are looking for different designs of bioreactors, the one that fits best to us. We are going to make a purchase soon. I think in a month we can buy the bioreactor. Then we are going to start experiments to know, I mean, the exact numbers. So we will make probably at least 10 sessions of incubation, so which may take couple of months. So we may need to change the design and try or repeat everything from the scratch. So in a 1 year time, I think we can know the exact numbers. Mm-hmm.
Perfect. How long?
1 year.
1 year. Okay. Okay. So I fully understand. Well, fully understand is always a jump when you're talking from a scientist to a non-scientist, but I generally understand what you guys are doing and why you're doing it.
Yeah.
Obviously, I don't know how, because I'm sure that there's trade secrets and things here. I understand, the drivers in terms of cost, etc. Let's spend a little time now on building the company. How did you? I mean, it sounds like you're all brothers. I'm joking a little bit. It sounds like you're all brothers, but how did you all sort of come together and decide that this was going to be something that you as a team would spend the next 3 to 4 years on? How did the spark start for
Yeah.
Biftek?
Yeah, it's a beautiful question, and I am also glad to tell the story always. So I was doing my PhD, so I was like 25 years old, 26 maybe, something like that. I first started to read about so agriculture and husbandry, and those are the times that I start to realize how cruel things are. And then I start to question myself. I am eating meat. I am not a vegetarian, but this is cruel. I start to question the ethical side of it, etc. Then I got my PhD degree and came back to Turkey. And my brother already started a company that is focused on agriculture, digitalization in agriculture. So the aim of the company was like collecting data from many sources, and then build up an intelligence to make the agricultural production more efficient. And I joined him because he asked me to join since I have an academic background. I know how to write grants. Maybe I could contribute to the company by writing grants and attracting some money. Then I started writing grants, and it was a time that I was kind of hooked by my brother. Then we could not get separated. Since 2014, it was 2014, I joined him. In the meantime, I was reading all about agriculture, and I realized in a better way, so the contribution of agriculture on climate change and so on and so forth. But I was always thinking that I am supposed to do something that is relevant to my background, which is molecular biology. Then those were the days that cultivated meat became an agenda. I started to see it on newspaper, on news, on TV, and also on blogs, Twitter, blah blah. Then I start a discussion with my brother. Can we do it? So I know how to manipulate cells, how to how to grow stem cells, how to differentiate them. And my brother knows how to develop business. So he has lots of experience with business development and also talking to investors. Then one day I had an appointment with my partner right now, but used to be my ex-biology teacher, and went to his office and talked about it, about the idea. And I gave a book as a present to him, Paul Shapiros' book. It was. I read that book in advance, and then I gave it to him as a present. He read it in a week. He got very excited, and he called me back and said, "All right, we must do it. It is inevitable. We must do it. There is no other option." Because he is the vice president of Stem Cell Institute. So all the required tools, infrastructure is already available. Mm-hmm. And then we decided to establish the company. He also invited his brother because his brother was about to retire from bank. He was quite, good with the money, so he could handle the money in a very professional way. Then we were all four. We found the company. We got the first grant from states. We established our laboratories. Separate laboratories, separate from the institutes that my partner is vice president of. And we started our first experiments, first research and development experiments. Then we managed to apply for a patent. So it was the time that we then a couple of months ago, before we applied for patent, we also got acceptance from Big Idea Ventures acceleration program. So it was actually one of the most significant triggers that kept us on this track. And yeah, so far so good. We are still on the same track, and yeah, still working on the project, but we are developing. Yeah.
So how long has that been now? From the very beginning, from giving him the book, from Shapiro, sort of just saying, "Yep, this is absolutely inevitable for us." How long is that? Was that a 6 month, 12 month, 3 years, 10 years? Well, obviously not 10 years because Paul didn't write it within 10 years ago, but.
I mean, do you mean the time that
I meant how long's the company been going from the very beginning? How old is the company?
I see. It has been 3 years, so 3 years old, I can say, since 2018.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. So it is not easy to run a company with no revenue that depends on the investment monies, and we are making also we are hiring people, so you have to run things, right? Somehow.
And given that you're a very science-oriented company, how are you doing that? Is that through a combination of investments from companies like BIV, but also grants and things? Are you eating a lot of pot noodles and ramen and paying yourselves small salaries? How are you? What's been the 3 years like from a struggle perspective?
Yeah, we get no salary for 2 years, I can say. I mean, no single bucks. I mean, nothing. So we had a separate salary that comes from our other jobs. So as I said, we were running another company since 2014. So we were compensating our expenses by the salary, but in the meantime, we spared our time for research and development that can convince the investors that we are up to something. So it was like this for 2 years, and the governmental grants were just enough to run those projects. For example, I mean, so this is a confession. Although I had a salary from that grant money, I got no money from that grant. I mean, I did not receive anything. The money that is supposed to be mine was all sent to consumables. I mean, so this is, although it was my salary, I just spent it for consumables.
So consumables, explain to people that aren't close to this category. So you took your money and what did you do with it?
I bought stuff for laboratory, I can say. Yeah.
Okay, test tubes and Bunsen burners.
Definitely, yes, that's true. And microscope.
Yes, of course, microscopes. So let's talk about the business a little bit. It's going to take you a year, you mentioned, to be able to show the cost is potentially 80 times or 40 times less expensive than FBS. Who do you see buying your growth factor? And when do you think it will be available for sale?
Yeah, there are many companies who are interested. We already had lots of letters of intentions. Once we are ready, so there are companies who are willing to buy. I mean, just at the time that we declare we are ready to sell. So those companies are like, I mean, if there is no concern regarding making advertisements, I can tell their names.
No. No, I mean, we're interested in understanding, what kind of, where's the business here? You're developing a growth factor which will be used to create cell-based meat, clean meat. It's part of the reason why the industry has had not challenges, but part of the reason why it's taking time to grow is because the component parts, including the growth factor, are expensive, right? If you guys have figured out a way of taking the expense out of that process, it unlocks the whole category, unlocks the whole industry. What kind of companies do you see as being your first potential customers? And by all means mention them. If you think they'll be comfortable with it and they'll be fine with it, then by all means mention them.
All right. So the companies who are intending to produce the end product, the meat, could be the buyers. Last week, for example, I had a conversation with a German-based company who are intending to produce schnitzel alive. So they're intending to buy the technology, maybe the serum itself, but they're kind of interested in the technology. They want us to demonstrate that our serum works. If it works, then we can be their suppliers, so we can have an agreement. So we are in discussion with many companies from Singapore, so they are quite interested. They are all looking for solutions.
And why Singapore in particular?
So they're very eager to being a hub in the world. So I mean, a hub in terms of cultivated meat production. So Singapore is the pioneer in terms of allowing the production of it. I just read the news today, so it is going to be scaled up. I mean, the small scale production of just gonna be bigger in the following months. So Singapore has allowed them to make this scaling up. Then we had conversation with companies in other European countries. One from England, one from Belgium. So I mean, as you may guess, those companies, I mean, the potential buyers are the companies that are intending to produce the end product. So they don't want to solve all the problems, but they are mostly looking for solutions from other providers.
Okay. So various companies in Singapore, some in Europe. Are these meat companies, or are these like, do you see, for example, that the traditional meat companies are starting to take an interest in cell-based or clean meat, or is it more sort of early stage companies who are developing the technology?
So both is available. So early stage startups as well as advanced startups are in contact with us. They are quite interested in our solution. For example, the companies in Singapore are mostly intending to produce fish, but the German-based company is intending to produce schnitzel. So they are considering their local cuisine. Yeah. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Okay. You've mentioned that you guys are basically eating a lot of ramen noodles, and you're not paying yourself for the first 2 years. You took your grant money and you turned it into test tubes and Bunsen burners and the microscope, not forgetting the microscope. When do you, as a team, believe that this is going to be a business where you can sell product, create revenue, and actually, not rely upon grants or investment as a way of building the business? And maybe it's 5 years from now, I don't know, but what do you guys estimate, and what gives you a belief that that's the time period for turning this into a revenue generating business versus a grant or an investment business?
Mm-hmm. Well, so as we see positive data, so we are encouraged. But when it's going to be, revenue generating company? So, well, it depends on, of course, the buyers. So when the buyers are ready to produce, so we are supposed to be ready to sell, right? It also depends on the regulations. So before regulations, so meat producers wouldn't like to invest on buying the serum, right? So it depends on lots of parameters. But it is worth to mention that since we are interested in microbiomes and the metabolites of bacteria, there are some other potential products that we are also considering. Like, for example, postbiotics that can be ingredient in toothpaste, or postbiotics or bacteria that prevents the decay of meat. That could be, inoculated within the packaging. So we are also planning to initiate some research and development projects that are concentrated on those aspects. Even if the clean meat space is not ready, for example, in terms of regulations, or it might not have been scaled up yet, so we could still generate some revenue. On the other hand, if we can grow sales without FPS, our solution could be sold to research groups, to academia, because academia is also dependent on FPS. Regular cell culture laboratories are dependent on FPS. Mm-hmm. So research group might also be interested in those alternatives. So although we are kind of dependent on the clean meat sector, we could be somehow find a backup plan to generate some revenue before everything is in the market. So,
okay.
Yeah.
So there are other potential customers aside from the clean meat market, and part of the reason why you're looking at that, by the sounds of it, is that the clean meat market is still going to take a little bit of time to mature because the regulatory environment is not there. For point of perspective, when the regulatory environment is there, in other words, when people are allowed to sell clean meat or cell-based meat as a product, and people can go into a store and buy it or have it as an ingredient within a product, are there estimates in your market for how big the cell-based or the clean meat market could be? Is it a $1 billion? Is it, in the next 5 years, $1 billion market? Is it a multi-billion-dollar market? Is it more likely to be 10 years? Well, I guess there's two ways of looking at that. What are sort of the estimates that you've seen or you've read about, and what do you personally think is the potential size of the cell-based or clean meat market over the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah. So there's a magic number like 5, and mostly when this question is asked, the answer is like, in 5 years it's going to be like more than 50%. But there are reports that says by 2030. So if I am not wrong, if I am remembering correctly, 30% of the meat going to be clean meat, both plant-based and also cultivated meat. 70% going to be conventional. Beginning from 2030, so by 2040 and 50, more than half going to be clean meat. In my opinion, it's going to be even earlier. Let me give you an example. For example, the plant-based meat is still, occupies less than 10% of the market, right? Mm-hmm. So correct me if I am wrong. But it is already available in fast food chain restaurants in Turkey. A couple of days ago, I ordered Burger King Whopper, which is made of plant-based burger patty, and it was at pilot stage in the Burger King in Turkey like a couple of months ago. I mean, things are going so fast. So I tasted the first burger patty of Impossible Burger 2 years ago, but now I am consuming it already, and it has been 2 years only. And the estimates were like in 5 years it's going to be all around the world, but it has been 2 years. So it looks like things are going faster than we estimate. And my personal guess is once the regulatory space is all done, ready, and so companies are ready to produce and sell it. So it could happen in a year, maximum in 2 years. We are going to see it in the restaurants, in my opinion, even in countries like Turkey. So it's not going to take long.
2 to 3 years, you think cell-based meat will be in restaurants?
Yeah, this is what I guess.
Mm-hmm. And from your point of view, where's going to be obviously Singapore has deregulated. It allows cell-based meat to be sold and consumed today. They went through the analysis. The scientists have taken a look at it, and they believe that there's no risk, and this is a product that can be sold. And when you think about it, because it's at the molecular level or the cell level, it's identical to traditional meat. I don't know why you would actually need to regulate or have a concern about the product. Obviously, we can get into that if there's a reason. But aside from Singapore, where do you think that will be the first sort of countries or regions that will be part of this shift over the next, in your opinion, 2 or 3 years?
As usual, in my opinion, after Singapore, California gonna be the first spot on the world. Yeah, California. Then it will be in all around USA, but in the meantime, Europe, probably Holland first, going to be selling the product. Then England. Once it is in Europe, it will penetrate to Middle East easily. So the pioneer gonna be California, then Europe will follow, in my opinion. So I mean, it is always like that, right? In terms of new technologies. So first it pops up in California, then migrates to Europe, and then Middle East.
All right. So, okay. And if it is available more pervasively over the next couple of years, have you sort of got a feel for size of market over the next 2 to 3 years or 4 years? Is this a $1 billion opportunity? Should other companies be taking this very seriously, or is it still very much a sort of a rare? It'll be in a few places in California. It'll be in a few places in Holland and other places. What size of market? Any view?
Well, so I can't make a precise estimation, but I believe it's going to be a $1 billion market. I am sure that today's conventional meat producers gonna see a big opportunity there. I mean, the meat producers in Turkey are having discussions with us already, so they are also seeing the opportunity here. So it will grow rapidly, in my opinion, in shorter than we anticipate.
So I'm doing this podcast in Paris, and my dog just decided just decided that he was going to start barking. Apologies. Okay. I promised you that this would be a really short conversation, and I know I've spent a lot more time than I anticipated, but it was just such a good conversation, so I really wanted to continue with it. Any last? Well, let me ask the question I usually ask around about the end. If someone listening is either a potential investor or a potential advisor or somebody who can make a difference to your business in some way, maybe it's just as a consumer at some point in the future, what's the best way of them getting a hold of you and of them getting a hold of Biftek? And by the way, if you wouldn't mind spelling any sort of social media links and things that you mention, so that people who are listening can slowly write down, the details and then follow up directly with you. So what's the best way of somebody reaching out to you as an individual and also of reaching out to Biftek?
Mm-hmm. So you can reach me on LinkedIn. So I think this is the best and easiest way. I am on LinkedIn. So I am not a big fan of social media, but LinkedIn is a business-oriented social media. So reach me on LinkedIn. You can send email to info@biftek.co. So we are always checking our emails, of course, anytime.
And Biftek is Biftek?
Yes, .co.
Okay, so info@biftek.co.
You're right. My name is Erdem Erikçi. So I will be happy to discuss anything, any question that you might have in your mind. So we are all open to good conversation.
Perfect. And if somebody wants to just look at the website, see what you guys are up to, best way of doing that is biftek.co. And are you looking for more relationships with cell-based or clean meat companies who are looking for serum or growth factor?
Of course, always. So we are trying to understand the needs of the companies, and so we are making our plans accordingly.
Mm-hmm.
So if companies would like to discuss about anything in the space, so we will be glad to initiate a talk.
Perfect. Any last thoughts for anyone listening today? Anything that you think I didn't get a chance to ask you that you wanted to communicate?
Well, I can say, so the company who is intending to mimic whatever happens in the body, gonna survive in the space, going to succeed, producing the meat in a cheaper way, because so we should be always considering the principles of biology. I mean, whatever happens in the cow should be somehow happening outside, and there are lots of knowledge available in the literature that can guide us in that sense. We should be just asking the right question and thinking in an open-minded way. So we should be kind of brave in terms of trying new things. We should never hesitate to, try new ideas. Because so one of those ideas, even if it is like kind of underrated or underestimated, could be the real solution to a real problem. So so this is the last thought I can mention.
I think that's great. And even though you've been using your own money to build the lab and you haven't been paid a good salary over the last 2 years and so on, you would do it again? You would recommend it as a process for other entrepreneurs?
I will definitely do it again, because it's kind of routine for an entrepreneur. Entrepreneurs are just triggered by a good idea, and most of the time they are not compensated in the first couple of years. But then, if that idea is kind of confirmed and validated by investors, then so this is going to be your dream job that you already have.
It sounds amazing. Obviously, your wife, girlfriend, husband, boyfriend, if you're an entrepreneur, has to be accepting of this lifestyle. But, as long as they are,
definitely.
Well, Erdem, I really appreciate your time today. Thank you for spending as much time. One thing I've never really managed to do with people in the cell-based or clean meat space is to get to such granularity in terms of where they think their business is going and where they think the industry is going. So it's always very difficult to predict the future. Otherwise, we'd all be, emperors and kings and queens, and we'd all be worth billions of dollars. But I do appreciate you having such a close involvement in this space, giving some predictions of what's going to be happening in the space. Interesting. I'll look forward to seeing cell-based meat in California, also in Holland, and I'm really looking forward to a time when we can create great tasting meat without needing to create it on the back of a skeleton. That's going to be an interesting time in our development as a species. Erdem, thank you so much. Really appreciate you. I'm going to press pause now, and then I'll be right back. Thanks for coming along to the podcast, Big Idea podcast focused on food. I hope you enjoyed the conversation with Erdem from Biftek. Please do like and subscribe. That way we'll give you updates every week when we have new podcasts. If you've got people you think we should be speaking with, please do reach out or add a comment below. Ultimately, these podcasts are here to serve you and the broader community. If you want to reach out to me, I'm on LinkedIn, Andrew D. Ive at Big Idea Ventures, and also you can find me at bigideaventures.com. We focus on investing in great companies who are changing the world, specifically at this point on the food category. So reach out. Look forward to hearing from you. Thanks very much.